You're watching CNBC TV 18. Let's go straight to the top story this evening. It is a setback for Reliance Communications chairman Anil Ambani. The Supreme Court has held him guilty of contempt in the Ericsson case and has ordered Reliance Communication to pay 450 crore rupees to Ericsson within 4 weeks. Failing this, Anil Ambani will be sent to jail for 3 months. Ashmit Kumar, who's been tracking this case closely and was in court during the hearing today, joins us now. Ashmit, take us through the fine print of the order, a brief background to the case and the implications.
Right, so they have money to pay Rafale, but they don't have money to repay us. That extraordinary citizens of our country have taken the courts for a ride. These were the arguments with which Ericsson opened its contempt application against Anil Ambani. It seems to have worked. These arguments seem to have struck home. The apex court holding just this morning that Anil Ambani indeed is guilty of contempt of court, contempt of the highest court of the country. Some very sharp words, some interesting riders that have been slipped in. We'll get to that in just a bit. But first, a look at the genesis of the crisis. Now, in the year 2018, there was a payment dispute between the two sides over 1,600 crore rupees. They agreed to settle that amount for 550 crore rupees, with RCom agreeing to pay that amount of 550 crore rupees. And towards that end, RCom, as well as two other ADAG companies in the month of May, had submitted an undertaking before the NCLAT where they clarified that they will cough up that amount of 550 crore rupees. The interesting caveat being it wasn't conditional. There were no linkages with that undertaking, but that changed just a few months later. In the month of August, the same three companies submitted the same undertaking before the apex court. What had changed, however, is that it was made conditional. We'll pay that, we'll undertake to make that payment of 550 crore rupees provided the deal with Jio goes through, and that is something that the apex court seems to have taken objection to. The Supreme Court records that we did not accept this linked payment, this linked undertaking. We did not accept that, and that we gave a very firm deadline of December 12th. Further, what the apex court also records as a part of its judgment, and this is interesting here, the Supreme Court judgment records that while before us, RCom had argued that it is impossible to make that payment of 550 crore rupees, Supreme Court records that parallel to this case, RCom had reached out to Ericsson saying that if Ericsson withdraws its contempt and arbitration proceedings, RCom will be able to make that payment of 550 crore rupees. Now, it is these inconsistencies that seem to have irked the apex court, the Supreme Court recording that the undertaking was false, that they had absolutely no intentions to pay up, that Anil Ambani had a cavalier attitude in terms of this undertaking that had been submitted on affidavit before the highest court of the country. And towards that end, above and beyond just holding that he is guilty of contempt of court, the Supreme Court has now directed that to purge that contempt, it's important for RCom to cough up that amount of 450 crore rupees. And not just that, this amount has to be coughed up within 4 weeks' time, failing which the Supreme Court has clearly provided that Anil Ambani, in case of a failure to make that payment, will head straight to jail for 3 months' time. And not just that, the Supreme Court has also slapped a disciplinary action, so to say, a penalty of 1 crore rupees on each of the 3 directors, including Anil Ambani. So some strong action being taken. The big takeaway essentially being that Anil Ambani held guilty of contempt of court. The Supreme Court recording that contempt needs to be purged by payment of 450 crore rupees, failing which Anil Ambani will head straight to jail.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us with that big story. But the other big story tonight, Sajjan Jindal's JSW has ruled out a joint bid to acquire SR Steel along with Vedanta. Now, this comes just a day after Vedanta issued a similar denial. However, in a statement to CNBC TV 18, Sajjan Jindal has reiterated his support for the rulers of SR. In fact, going on to say that JSW is ready to buy 26% stake in SR Steel if the Ruyas manage to pull out the company from the insolvency proceedings. So remember, even previously, Sajjan Jindal has backed the Ruyas, saying that if they are able to provide the money, then they should be allowed to do so, given that they are the current promoters. But this is very different, not just backing the Ruyas, but also saying that they will be willing to pick up a 26% stake in SR Steel if the Ruyas manage to pull the company out of insolvency proceedings. Ritu Singh, who broke that story, joins us now with more. Ritu.
A fresh twist in the case of SR Steel's insolvency case, where, do remember, it is no secret that Jindals have always been very keen to acquire SR Steel under the bankruptcy process and had tried bidding for the company along with the New Metal Consortium in the first round, where their bid was then rejected by the Supreme Court for not paying up the dues of SR Group companies. Now we're given to understand, in the light of various reports that have emerged, that the Jindals may try to attempt a fresh bid for SR Steel. We reached out to Sajjan Jindal himself himself, who has clarified to CNBC TV 18 that at this point of time, JSW Group is not looking to make any fresh bid either independently or with Vedanta or any other partner to acquire Essar Steel. But, and this is very important, the clarification that they've made is this: in the event that the lenders and the courts accept Ruya's settlement offer for the company to withdraw it from insolvency under Section 12A by offering to pay 54,000 crore rupees to the creditors, in the event that proposal is accepted by the courts and the banks, the Jindals are ready to support the Ruyas by offering to take up as much as 26% stake in the company. So, a very important statement coming in from Sajjan Jindal himself that they will back the Ruyas in case their bid is admitted. But for now, no fresh bid will be made by the Jindals to acquire Essar Steel.
All right, Ritu, thanks very much. That is the CNBC TV 18 exclusive. It's staying with the Essar Group. ArcelorMittal is believed to be in talks with the Essar Group to buy its power and port assets. Sources tell us that ArcelorMittal is keen on acquiring Essar's Hazira port and Hazira and Mahan power units. Remember, Essar Steel draws 600 megawatt power supply from Hazira and Mahan power units. Sources also tell us that even Essar Group wants ArcelorMittal to perhaps pick up these assets. It is in talks with lenders to release guarantees. However, the two sides haven't reached an agreement on asset valuation yet, so this is still preliminary. But moving on to the other big story tonight. IT industry body NASSCOM has done away with its annual industry guidance. The decision was announced earlier today at the ongoing NASSCOM Technology and Leadership Forum 2019. Kritika Saxena and Mugdha Variyar bring us a mood check and the key takeaways from the gathering of India's top IT CEOs. Take a look.
In a huge break from tradition, NASSCOM has stopped giving guidance for FY20, and the reason is clear. The kind of uncertainties that are prevalent in the global economic environment are large, and as a result of that, NASSCOM believes that giving a guidance is no longer a clear picture about outlook. Hence, NASSCOM is now going to be releasing CEO surveys. So for FY19, the industry has done better than expected. NASSCOM had guidance 7 to 9% and the growth has been 9.2%. But as far as the outlook is concerned, the CEO survey finds that 51% CEOs believe that 2019 will be either just like 2018 in terms of performance or marginally lesser, and 49% believe that it could be slightly better.
The way we measured success is totally changing. So in the past, we have used a certain way to look at what success is and therefore make the projections in terms of guidance. And I just feel that that is not apt anymore. That is not right anymore. So that's the reason we are not doing what we did in the past. What we are now looking at is trying to understand the right way to predict the future.
I think we're just pointing out that the macroeconomic environment, one doesn't know how it will pan out. The US is going to grow slower this year compared to last year, as we talked about. The uncertainty on Brexit, the uncertainty on the growth of continental Europe, and those are scenarios that companies have to deal with and prepare for. As we talked about earlier as well, one component that is an important component for success, irrespective of what happens with the environment, is talent, and the shortage of talent and the war on talent. And so building talent out is a major focus, I think, for all organizations. And if you talk to at least most technology companies, they're all focused on how do we build out new age skills and have those skills available readily wherever they are available. And our big focus is to ensure that they're available in India.
My belief is that there will be a paradigm shift, and that's why I'm saying that FY20 will be a lot more exciting. And it is only exciting because the technology uptake is improving. Okay. And overall the economy, I think that some of the stresses and strains will start easing off.
We expect to continue to grow at a good speed above the market, 5.5% to 8% of growth. We continue to improve our margins. We expect to be close or hit our midterm guidance in terms of profitability. So yes, we continue to stay bullish for 2019 as well.
Society impact of AI is very, very high, and therefore we are passionately working on it. On organizations, both as customers and users of AI capabilities, but also as a new area of opportunity. We today have 3,000 cloud-ready partners in the country. Now these are 3,000 companies who are helping do business in the cloud. That means more jobs, that means more entrepreneurship, that just means a different way of doing things in the country. So it's fantastic for the country to have that capability. And finally, developers. Now, if there's one place on the planet where you will have a lot of developers, it's India. So on a recent survey on LinkedIn, India was the number 3 country after United States and China in terms of people with AI skills.
I think our job is to do scenario analysis, scenario planning, and then look at plan A, plan B, plan C. So absolutely, to me it looks like the media is wanting a recession. Our clients are not yet there yet, but I think if we settle somewhere between a recession and a Garara year, then we are talking about a slowdown. What that means though is, my view is I don't think the investment in new technology is going away, because that has become an existential issue. It's a boardroom conversation. It's a CEO agenda. What that means is that the pressure on traditional IT will intensify.
It is evident that Indian IT is bracing for tough times. All players are working hard to reskill and invest in preparing for the uncertain times around the corner. In Mumbai with Kritika Saxena, Mugdha Warrior.
So the annual guidance being done away with at NASSCOM, and that perhaps makes sense given the kind of uncertainty that we're living with, and the fact of the matter is that very often you tie yourselves up to these numbers. Also at the NASSCOM summit was former CEO of Unilever, Paul Polman. He spoke to Mugdha in what was his first interview since stepping down as the head of the FMCG giant. He spoke about the current industry landscape and HUL under the leadership of Sanjeev Mehta. Take a look.
It was the idea of the current management, Sanjeev Mehta, who is very capably running our HUL business here as CEO and chairman, had actually the idea to buy them. It cost me a little bit of money, I agree with that, but I also have so much confidence in our people in HUL that have consistently delivered and over-delivered that without any doubt they will make this brand also more successful than its previous owners, and that's obviously the idea, and it fits very well with our food business. You have the Brew brand, which is very well established. You have the Kisan brand, which is a very successful brand, and most importantly, we have very, very good people here. That gives me confidence that.
And so, when do you see HUL's revenue contribution growing beyond 10% for Unilever globally?
Sorry, I didn't.
HUL's, I think, revenue contribution is still below 10% globally for Unilever. Do you see that of HUL? Yes.
Yeah, because the world is big, obviously, but there is no reason. With the current growth rates, we've more than doubled our business in my tenure here as well, and there's no reason why we cannot continue on that trajectory. The Indian economy is helping. It's one of the best performing economies in the world, so that's a good thing. There's still many people that need to be lifted out of poverty, which is what we tend to focus on. That's a very good thing. If the rural areas, which is still 70% of India, get a little bit more prosperous, companies like ours will benefit from that. And we've had a consistent, strong performance that you've also seen in the share price of HUL, which has been one of the best performing shares in the Indian stock market. So most people tend to agree with what we are doing. So I would say don't be too eager, stay on the trajectory, and the numbers will ultimately get there.
So you see FMCG, demand growing in India, and there were some rural SOPs announced by the government in the budget. So do you see that, helping the FMCG sector?
Yeah, I actually saw that this morning, and obviously, undoubtedly more will be announced with the elections coming up. So, but that will all help. The more we lift people out of poverty and put infrastructure there and help the farmers with improving their income, that will directly benefit companies like ours who deal with the bottom of the pyramid. No question about it.
Market action of the day. Bulls making a strong comeback after losing for 8 straight sessions, backed by a strong last-hour rally as crude prices cooled off. Benchmark indices today ending the day with gains of more than 1% each. So there you have it. The Nifty reclaiming 10,700. The Sensex put on about 400 points today. And the broader markets also followed suit, with the Nifty Bank and the Nifty Mid-Cap closing 1% high. Of course, watch out for the Nifty Bank tomorrow. We now have that recapitalization news, which is official. Well, CNBC TV 18's news break, as I pointed out, has been confirmed. The government has approved the recapitalization of 12 public sector banks to the tune of 48,000 crore rupees. Now, in this round of recapitalization, Corporation Bank and Allahabad Bank will get the lion's share of the funds, and the government believes that this will help them exit the prompt corrective action framework. Remember, the decision is with the Reserve Bank. Sapna joins us now with the details. Sapna, who's getting how much?
Well, the policy direction and the objective of the recapitalization plan for public sector banks, that policy direction on the part of the government is extremely clear. 4 major categories of banks that the government is looking at now, and if you look at this 48,000 crores worth of tranche that has just come in for PSBs, here the major share is going to those banks which are expected to come out of the PCA framework, namely Allahabad Bank and Corporation Bank. The second category that the government has also taken care of is those banks which have come out but need to continue to remain strong. So basically Bank of India and Bank of Maharashtra. Interestingly enough, Oriental Bank of Commerce is not part of that list. The third would be the non-PCA banks. However, they are in breach of the PCA 1 threshold, namely Punjab National Bank, Andhra Bank, Syndicate Bank and Union Bank. So to prevent these banks from going into PCA, again the recapitalization is being given. The last category contains those banks which will continue to be in the PCA framework for some time, namely UCO, United, IOB and Central Bank. Here again recapitalization has been given. Over 1 lakh crore worth of capital infusion has already happened in FY19. Apart from this, the government is also keeping a buffer of around 5,000 odd crores for any unforeseen contingency or probably as growth capital for the amalgamated entity of Bank of Baroda.
Infusion by the government today, much awaited for Andhra Bank as well. Could you tell us what it will do to your, tier 1, tier 2 ratios? How do you see this impacting the bank?
So as it is, you see our September, the latest results. We are not really breaching any one of the things, is that. So we are just closer to that. The capital is more for the likelihood of the aging provisions that would occur, which we have also indicated that. So that would be needed for that. Part of it would be used, but still we'd be having some amount of growth capital to go forward. So it's a very welcome thing that we got it at this point of a time, and I'm very sure that Andhra Bank, as we stated earlier, with a NIM of 325 and a consistent operating profit being at around 5,200 per annum. It's the ones with the aging provision issues goes on and the slippages could be contained a little further in the smaller accounts, as most of the corporate accounts have fallen, and the further slippages in the corporate account is going to be very, very minimal. We think we are in a better placed position.
Andhra Bank reacting there to fresh capital infusion from the government. That's a wrap on this edition of CNBC TV 18 special. Coming up next, India and Saudi Arabia jointly agree to fight terrorism without explicitly naming Pakistan. A special discussion up next.